I think it's not an optional skill for a man to learn. It's not like, should I learn to ski or not? Because you could live without skiing or not. It's, do you want to be alone or do you want to have company? Do you want to have love in your life, connection, sex, relationships with the type of person that you want? And in order for you to get that, you're going to have to become the person that meets that criteria. I got into this because I was a bit of a nerd. Well, I was a real nerd growing up. I played the flute. I was an opera singer. I was a kind of wimpy, skinny kid back in the 80s in Australia when it was a rough country. And I never really got any attention from women growing up. Like many dudes who weren't the cool dudes or weren't the footy players or weren't, DJs or skaters or whatever. And I was always trying to figure out ways to bring women into my life. And like many men, I thought the best thing to do would just be really friendly and nice to any girl that happened to be in my social orbit, which led to me getting some friends who liked my company but didn't see me as a romantic prospect. And then I thought I better start a band because that was I thought that's the only thing I could do is become famous. And so for quite a long time I played in not very cool funk, disco, reggae bands, and put all of my effort into that. I did like playing music. It wasn't only because of women, but it was definitely trying to create some kind of leverage. And I found that even when I was the most famous guy in the room, that it didn't really yield much. I might get some attention from women, but it just wasn't really doing much. In another lifetime, I was really interested deeply into martial arts and Buddhism, and I was traveling to China and studying in Shaolin Temple, and I had this plan to move to China and become a monk. And so I thought, before I do that, I want to bury myself in hedonism and worldly pursuits and sex, so I can get it out of my system, which didn't work. But so I threw myself on a journey of like, okay, this is pre-internet, really. I mean, there was no dating apps at the time. The only way to meet women was through social circle, and my social circle, that wasn't doing anything. So I was like, well, I'm just going to have to go and talk to them somewhere. And I became loosely aware of the early pickup scene in America, the mystery method, the game, the old school stuff. I read the book and I immediately thought, this is not transferable to the Australian culture, to be kind, because there's all these flashy things and you're reading girls' palms and telling them stories about yourself that aren't true. And I knew that was not going to work in Australia, where the chicks would be like, what are you fucking talking about? Why do you want to read me palm? And so I just started saying things to women on the street or on the tram. And I had no mentors, I had no system at the time, but it was clear to me that I didn't want to have anything scripted. I didn't want to go in there and say fake things and have pre-rehearsed lines to say. So I just started going out a lot and speaking to women and made all sorts of errors. And then over time started to see, okay, when I said that, suddenly she went cold. And so I started to adjust and tweak and figure out a loose system. I met several guys who were also, let's say, motivated to go and meet women and who were skilled in different ways. One was really cheeky, one was really kind of low energy and mysterious. One was really, let's say, bold and dominant. And so I started rolling with these guys and we went out every day and more or less every night for about 2 years. Back then I was still a broke musician. I worked as a massage therapist to pay the bills, and then the rest of my time I was out there chasing women. So I went through a really harsh and rapid learning curve. And because I had a background in martial arts and meditation, I'd done a lot of meditation retreats, I had an advantage, which I didn't necessarily realize at the time, but it was that I was able to chart what was happening internally to me. So the main reason why men don't approach women cold is because it feels scary, because they have an anxiety, which I don't think it's not usually a clinical anxiety. But there's feelings that are going on inside them, which then loop up into thought processes that write negative stories, and then they find excuses to not talk to a woman they don't know, which is pretty tragic, because it's often the only thing that's stopping you from meeting the woman of your dreams is some invented story in your head and some feelings in your body. And so because I had that martial arts meditation background, I could observe swelling or increasing sensations in my body and not necessarily place a label and a meaning on them that was that, oh, I'm scared, I'm nervous, I'm embarrassed, this is going to be terrible. I just observed them as impersonal phenomena which were changing, reaching a peak and then moving into something else. And so I was able to get through that approach anxiety or that fear of meeting strangers. So yeah, through that kind of apprenticeship by just going out and doing it, and then, but at the same time, processing my process as I went, so that I wasn't traumatizing myself, which is something that happens to some guys when they just like kind of bang their heads against the wall by pushing and pushing and pushing, and then there is actually, it's not necessarily lifetime damage trauma, but it builds up to a point where people then bail, because if it's not fun and it's not able to be relaxing, then most people are going to quit. So yeah, I went through this process and then got involved in the underground seduction scenes back in the early 2000s, which was essentially a bunch of not cool dudes meeting in the backs of pubs and eating pizza and discussing, like, how do you talk to girls? And I went along to these meetings thinking that I was going to meet these A players and found out that I was, let's say, more advanced than them. So I was like, who wants to go out? I'll take people out. And so I started informally teaching and I didn't have a teaching system at the time. My system was go out, say stuff, see what happens. And then over time I started, especially as I started teaching guys, started seeing where their errors were in terms of their delivery, their tonality, the content of their conversation, how they were leading or not, logistics and so on. And then over time was able to backwards engineer what is it that makes a guy good with women in terms of the seductive process and making a woman feel both at ease but also excited, so that he wasn't, let's say, typecast as the nice guy, friendly dude, and also wasn't going to be the brash, pushy arsehole guy, but to take elements of let's say, both those archetypes and blend them into something that's functional and ethical and authentic. And and then the rest has been many years of tweaking and refining that teaching system as I started traveling the world and teaching bigger workshops and doing this all over the planet. And now I've been doing this for 17 years, taught thousands of men in field, in real life, where they go out, I put a microphone on them, we throw them out in the streets, they go and talk to women, me and my coaches listen, monitor, and they come back, we give feedback and start to tweak and adjust what's happening so that they don't, again, I don't teach guys go and say this thing, but there is definitely patterns, there is processes that and principles that you can apply that then you can run them through your own personality and it becomes you. Basically your own distinct seductive style.
That's cool. To come back to, you mentioned in the beginning that you read the game, you heard of mystery and this kind of more structured things that people were doing that was quite gimmicky, I guess, and quite like rehearsed, and that you saw immediately that wasn't going to work in Australia, which I think is like already very showing of your intuition of like what works and what doesn't. So you already kind of had that. Do you feel like you led in a way this shift to a more natural way of talking to women that's less scripted and more authentic, or do you feel like that was a movement that was happening at the time?
It's funny, I don't want to take credit for talking to women normally.
Yeah, right.
It's like throughout all of human history, before dating apps, if a man wanted to get a girlfriend or a wife, okay, either it was done through the parents or at the village dance or something. But if there wasn't a societal structure to hook up, it was like, well, what do? You have to go and talk to her, and don't be a weirdo, and don't try and pretend to be something that you're not. So really, what I'm doing is kind of formalizing natural intersection between male and female energy. So yes, it was kind of groundbreaking in terms of a formal teaching structure, and I was the earliest person doing that. And there's other contemporaries of mine like John Keegan and Gareth Jones and Zan. Those guys around that. We're all sort of starting it around that same time, 2005-6 ish. So yeah, there was other guys doing that as well. But yes, I was the natural game guy at the time when everyone else was doing magic tricks and stories about how they were very cool. So yeah, it's not like I invented this. It's just like, okay, if you don't want to just sit there and wait for fate or chance to bring a woman into your life, then you have to be proactive. And because we live in societies that now are culturally dispersed, there is not the village dance, and most people are not living in communities where you're just going to bump into each other naturally. Then you have to step out of the maze of this tens of thousands, 100,000, millions of individuals walking around a city space and ignoring each other because they have to, because there's too many of them to engage with. But you have to learn how to go, okay, well, I'm going to break a very arbitrary social rule, which is that strangers don't talk to each other, and go and make something happen. And then it means that inevitably and eventually you will end up dating the type of person that you want to be with, as opposed to settling for somebody that you had to because that's all that was in your uni class or at your Zumba class or whatever. And that, I think, is extraordinarily liberating it was for me suddenly, because before that I was like, I'm in a band. Occasionally I might meet some chick through the band. There was a lot of effort, and it was a very, very small pool of people to choose from. I remember that first day when I just walked over and said some stuff badly to a girl. Like, I was on cloud nine, because it just suddenly meant to me, I can actually, like, if I keep doing this, eventually the girlfriend I'm going to get is going to be as cute as her, and it's going to be my type of girl. And that was an ultimate revelation and an immense feeling of freedom. And so that's the gift that I try to give guys, is that they can have choice, that they don't have to live in scarcity, because as soon as you start competently approaching women, you are living in abundance. You may not be living in abundance yet of women or of dates or sex or relationships, but you have now an abundance of choice of people that you can interact with. And then there are processes you can go through to refine your skills, to become more relaxed, to become a better communicator, a better conversationalist, to have better body language. And there are so many correlating benefits to this that are not just the zero sum of, like, did I get a number or did I get a date? Whereas if you're on an app, then it's either win, lose. And mostly it's lose, because the algorithm is designed to make you lose, because it wants you to stay on the algorithm to take your attention and your money. And it's a 10-to-1 ratio. Like, the odds are stacked against men massively in these contexts. It's not a global conspiracy. It's just business. And so if you're able to actually have choice and build these correlating skills, then you develop yourself as a man. I know that, I done a decade or more of meditation before this, which had a profound effect on me. But the personal development that I went through, especially in those first 2 years of that kind of beginner's hell, or that fast learning curve, changed me indelibly, like completely as a man. That I was so much more confident, and that I didn't need the bells and whistles. I didn't need the funk band. I didn't need to be the cool guy, the rich guy, the whatever guy. I was good enough as I was. It was just that I had to learn how to sell and present myself. So yeah, I think it's not an optional skill for a man to learn. It's not like, should I learn to ski or not? Because you could live without skiing or not. It's, do you want to be alone, or do you want to have company? Do you want to have love in your life, connection, sex, relationships with the type of person that you want? And in order for you to get that, you're going to have to become the person that meets that criteria. And this is one of the best ways, not the only way, but I'd say, the most fast track way to develop yourself into a powerful, confident, sexy, socially competent male. And it can be done relatively quickly. Most men will never do it because the first part sucks, or it appears to anyway. It appears to be really daunting and really scary.
Do you think that it's like the main reason that guys don't do it is because of the fear, or do you think that it's because of like some kind of stigma around it, or something where they don't want to be judged? Maybe they have their own judgments that they've gathered from, their environment. Yeah. Well, how much do you think of it is that, and maybe speak a little bit to the stigma that is around this topic?
Personally, because I've done this and taught this in, I don't know, like well over a dozen countries, 5 continents. So I've seen, the kind of reactions that women will have all over the world. I've seen the negative consequences of doing this, and ultimately they are more or less zero. The stigma, the societal conditioning, the idea that that men don't do this because they're worried that they'll be judged as creeps or abusers or whatever, is more or less unfounded. It's actually a convenient excuse for the man not to do it. Have I seen, yes, I've seen, I don't know, 2 or 3 times when I've been teaching workshops. One time I remember in New York where a white knight or someone came over and said, "Oh, you shouldn't talk to girls, that's creepy." But it's less than a handful of times when I've watched tens of thousands of approaches. Right? I've taken out around 1,000 men, let's say, I think, more or less in field, and seen them do dozens of approaches each. And this idea that you're going to be harshly judged and cancelled or Me Too'd or whatever is not really a thing. So it's and guys will often bring that up as their reason for not doing it, because if you do this, they'll call the cops, and then you'll be cancelled and you'll lose your job. I'm like, no, I don't. I'm the person that can tell you that that's not a thing.
If anyone could be cancelled, it would be you, right?
Come on, try.
I'm still here, guys.
No, I've never. Occasionally people have said that they don't like it, and people have judged me. But mostly it's men. If I'm getting judgment, it's mostly guys judge me about that body language is wrong, or you're indirect versus direct, like technical stuff. I don't care about that.
Okay.
So the real reason why men don't do it is fear of rejection and a sense of not being worthy. That's because when I got into this, I didn't think that was that didn't even occur to me. I thought this was a technical skill set mixed with an understanding of being able to balance your state. And as I started teaching men, it became apparent, because most of the guys that come to me are fairly successful in the world, right? I'm pretty expensive, and most guys that come to me are established. They have good jobs, and sometimes they're mega wealthy, and they had a lot of accolades often. But it was clear pretty quickly, the problem is here, he doesn't believe that he's worthy of, so let's say, beautiful or high value women. That's the primary issue, because learning the skill set itself, it's not complicated, right? It's not complex algorithms or learning some really complex technical skill. I could literally teach a kindergarten kid the steps to go and do it. He'd probably do it better than the average 40-year-old man, actually, because he doesn't have all the baggage yet. So it's not hard to do. The thing that feels hard is that I think there's 2 primary fears men have. One is to be completely invisible and ignored, and one is to be exposed and seen. But the one that's safest is the one to be hidden. But when you're hidden, you do vanish, and then the consequences are, could be a lifetime of loneliness. So it's that fear of presenting yourself and going, here I am, without my car, without my watch, without my bank account, without my cool stuff that people know about me. I'm just a man, a dude on the street, and I'm trying to say hi and chat you up. Men put way too much weight on the reaction of a stranger they just met. And so because mostly men, when we're talking about women, in this context, we're always talking about beautiful women. And, I don't know if that's rude or not, but it's just that men want, if they're going to try and approach women and attract them, they're aiming for more attractive women than they've had before. So we're talking about beautiful women. And there are many types of beautiful women, and everyone's beautiful in their own ways. But if a man puts himself in front of a woman that is by society's markers presumed to be a hottie of whatever type, he has this subconscious belief that she's elevated above him, that she has more power than him, and that she has the right and the authority to judge him kind of as a complete man. To just be like, and I now proclaim that you're a useless piece of shit because I said, thanks, but I've got a boyfriend. The man then interprets that as like, I have been rejected by a high-value woman, therefore that means I'm not up to standard, that means I'm not worthy, that means I'm a loser, that means and then this spiral into negative thought processes. And so in order to prevent that, most men hide because they'd rather not face that big story. And I don't think they should, because that's not the true story. No one that you've just met can analyze you and decide whether you're a worthy human being. You just have to understand that when you go and do cold approach, that you'll be rejected most of the time. I'm really good at this. I still get rejected at least half the time, which is still very good. But it's just like rejection. I can't see it as rejection because she can't reject me. She's just rejecting my approach.
What are you considering a rejection? Just being like that she is kind of rude to you or doesn't want to talk to you at all, or the fact that she just talks to you maybe but isn't into you?
Yeah. Mostly, very rare are women rude to men when they do this. Again, I've seen this happen thousands of times. And yeah, sure, I've seen the odd time where a girl, especially in New York, will like, get the fuck out of here. Which, there's the occasional fuck off. There's the occasional, I think, which worse is whereas the woman just doesn't even look at the man, just like sweeps past him like he's just an obstacle in her way. So yeah, okay, that'll happen. But once you've done, let's say, 100 approaches, you can see from a proper data spread that, yeah, you might get 5% that are rude. And then you might get 5 or 10% that are overly enthusiastic. And you can then realize that neither of those are to do with you. This is to do with that she's having a bad day. She's a bit of a cunt. Can I say that here?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. We're Australians and Kiwis, it's not a rude word it's in Australia. It's just it's a complex, nuanced word. She has been approached 4 times today and she's irritated. She's socially anxious and she doesn't know how to deal with it, so she's rude. Whatever, that's her stuff, and that's fine. Like I don't judge her for that because we don't know what is going on in other people's lives. On the other side, you got these ones that are overly enthusiastic. That's who she is. She's a really friendly, nice person, or she's bubbly and likes interacting with people. And then you see from the other 80 odd people in between that it'll be more or less a mixture of like gentle disinterest to possibly interested, depending on what happens. And that's where you're going to actually play. So, because if a guy does this once and he goes out and does this for one afternoon and comes across one of those women who's nasty to him, it's very easy to then go, okay, that's what this is. No, a rejection is just like, okay, I'm not buying what you're selling. And most of the time that happens very gently or quite nicely. And I've seen countless times where women have said to my clients, thank you so much for talking to me. I'm married, but this is really brave of you. Keep going. And I hear that like often, right? Because actually women in general, and when I'm saying men and women, I know we're generalizing, so excuse that, but mostly they're very positive about this because they know that it's hard for men, and they know that it sucks to try and meet people through an algorithm. And mostly women are down with the fact that, with the idea that, yeah, a man's going to like have some balls to come over in there and do something bold and try and make something happen. Good day, gents. It's James Marshall here, and thanks to the people who've reached out and said, where's James? Is he okay? Yeah, I'm totally okay. I'm in Australia right now, and I've been taking my long service leave from dating coaching for about 4 or 5 months to have some chill time on my farm and hang out with the family and friends, and now I'm back. So, hope you enjoyed today's little clip. I'm going to be putting out a whole bunch of new material coming up for the spring and the summer. If there's any areas that you'd like me to cover, I'm open to suggestions, so post them in the comments below if you've got some stuff that you want me to talk about. And coming up is the next Natural Lifestyles coaching season starting in April. I'm going to be running a 4 and a 7-day workshop in Budapest, Hungary from the 4th until the 10th of April. Limited spots as always. The world's greatest in-field and in-a-game dating workshop where you'll be working personally with me and my world-class team as we take you through the streets of wonderful Budapest, pursuing and seducing the wonderful ladies there and learning the skill that will change you from a guy that's waiting for fate and hope and an app to maybe deliver you something to a guy that can take life by the balls, go out and get what you want and sort out your dating life once and for all. So if you'd like to find out about that, click the link in the description. You can get on a free call with my team. We can chat to you about your situation and see if you're the right fit for us and if we're the right fit for you. And hopefully we'll see you in April in Budapest to get this shit sorted. And if not, we'll see you in the next video. Peace.